Hey guys, welcome back to the vlog. This episode, we're covering a session from Hollywood Park Casino, another pretty popular room in the LA area. I actually have never been there before prior to this session, so it was a first time experience for me, and I have pretty mixed feelings about it. Let's just get right into it regarding my thoughts on this poker room. Starting with the pros, first off, this room is really elegant. The building's really nice. The whole property is just really modern, and it almost gives you like a fancy feel the entire time you're there as soon as you walk in. So that's kind of a cool thing to note. Secondly, there's a ton of games going. Although I went on a Sunday, so it might be a bit skewed. I've also heard that this room always has good game selection as far as options. So that's something to consider if you're someone who likes to table change and find the best game possible in the room. The third pro is there's a ton of action. Shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, being that this poker room is in LA. It just seems like the closer you get to downtown, the heavier the action gets. That definitely held true for this room as well. There was tons of big pots in the short time I was there. I only played like 2 or 2.5 hours, but in just that short amount of time, lots of hands, lots of big pots. So if you like action, Hollywood Park is a place to check out. Lastly, I just wanted to note, since it was my first time there and I signed up for a player's card, I got a free deck of cards. Pretty sweet. In addition, I also got $10 of match play, which, needless to say, I obviously lost, but it's still a cool offer. And if you guys are looking for a free deck of cards, just go play a session at Hollywood Park. Moving on to the cons of this room, number one for me is going to be, again, another room with a horrible buy-in structure. I played 3-5 no limit, and it was a 60 big blind fixed buy-in, I believe. Actually, no, I think it wasn't fixed. I think 300 was the max, and you could buy in for 100. So it's such a shallow game. Poker can't really be played the way it should be, in my opinion. So that's something to know if you're gonna go there. I didn't play other stakes, but I assume they also have shallow buy-ins across all stakes. So secondly, and I kind of don't like bringing this one up, but I just wanted to keep it honest, the staff there weren't very friendly. Obviously, this is individual based, everyone's different, but just in general, most people that I spoke with there, including the floor staff, just didn't seem happy to be there or happy to help you out. So, I don't know, not my favorite of vibes coming from the staff there. Third, I noticed that the felt on the tables was really rough and just kind of hard. I haven't encountered a felt like that before, and it wasn't like the nicest of textures to play on, so not a huge deal, but just something I noticed. Lastly, one of the main bad things about this casino, although it's not really its fault, is the traffic. This place is 5 minutes from LAX, which, if you guys don't know, is a giant international airport in Los Angeles. Naturally, placing a casino 5 minutes away from this airport is going to result in equal amounts of traffic, and Sunday was no exception. So just something to note if you're going to be playing here. Overall, I'd give this place a 5 out of 10. This rating doesn't have a ton of weight on it since I've only been there one time, but based on first impression, that's the rating I'd go with. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's move on to some hands. I played 3-5 no limit, in for $300. Let's go. In the first hand, there's 3 limps, and we look down at 10-9 offsuit on the cutoff. I put in the overlimp, the small blind completes, and the big blind checks. So we're 5 or 6 ways here to a flop, which comes 10-9-8 with 2 diamonds. The blinds check, an early position player now bets $20. There's 1 call, and the action's back to us. So I really don't like calling here at all because it gives such a good price to anyone behind with a draw. And it feels like the early position player could also be doing this with a ton of draws and marginal holdings as well. So we're going to be up against it sometimes, but I think a raise is the best move. So I like to make it $85 to go. The blinds fold, and it gets back to the early position player who jams all in for a total of $210. The overcaller gets out of the way, comes back to us. For this price, we're not going anywhere, though I expect to be behind a decent percentage of the time, given how the action went down. Regardless, I put in the call, obviously, and he shows his queen jack. So right off the bat, we're in some trouble here. Fortunately, the turn comes at 9, and the river is a brick. So we get a little lucky here the first hand of Hollywood Park, but glad it went our way. Moving on to the second hand.
222.
In the second hand, there's 2 limps, and the cutoff makes it $30 to go. We look down at ace queen offsuit on the button, and I feel like the cutoff could be opening fairly wide here, trying to isolate these limpers. So I elect to 3-bet. I make it $90 to go. It folds all the way back to the cutoff, who thinks about it for a bit and jams all in for around $300 total. So actions on us, we cover. It's kind of close, but the more I think about it, I'm not sure what hands he would be doing this that are worse than ace queen, aside from maybe ace jack suited, although that seems extremely optimistic. I think with a hand like tens or jacks, he could also be doing that, but against those hands, we're actually an underdog slightly, although it's mostly a flip, and against all other hands, we're dominated. So it's a close spot, I think, given the price, but I decided to just let it go and move on to the next hand. Luckily, he shows his kings, so obviously it makes me wish I just called pre-flop, but I'm happy with the play, and at least we made the right fold. Moving on to the next hand. In the next hand, under the gun open limps, everyone folds, the small blind completes, and we're in the big blind with 6-4 of spades. I check, and we go 3 ways to a flop of 9-9-4 with 2 diamonds. The under the gun player had shown some tendencies to continue fairly wide, and he didn't seem to like his fold button too much, so I lead out for $6 for value. He makes the call, and the small blind gets out of the way. The turn comes the king of hearts, and I decide to continue betting for value. Obviously, some of the time we'll be behind, but there's so many hands that we can still get value from, especially from this player type. There's diamonds, straight draws, even ace highs. So I decide to continue here for some thin value. I make it $15 to go, and he makes the call. The river's an interesting card. It's another 4, so we fill up here with bottom boat. On this card, I think about it for a bit, and I decide to check and induce bluffs from all his missed diamonds and missed straights, etc. Let him bluff off whatever amount he wants. And if we were to bet, I figured we would get no value from missed draws. However, looking back, I think I like a bet here because he was a passive player who liked to call a lot, but I hadn't seen him bluff very much. And I think maybe this is a mistake, but as played, I decide to check, and he checks it back after thinking about it for some time. I show, and we're good. So maybe there was some value to be had there. I'm not too sure. I don't love that river play, but happy with taking down the pot regardless. We move on to the next hand.
What? Oh, yeah.
In the next hand, there's 3 limps ahead of me. I look down at ace-7 of clubs from the cutoff. I decide to overlimp, and the big blind checks his options. So we're going 5 ways to a flop here, which comes 7-4-3 with 1 club. Early position player leads out for $20. I make the call, and the player on my left makes the call, who's on the button. So 3 ways to a turn here, which is another 4. So now the board reads 7-4-3-4. This time the early position player checks it over to us. And I could go either way, but I think I like a bet here. There's a lot of draws we can charge, and it just kind of seems like the early position player was taking a stab, and now he's giving up. Also, the button, I don't think is too strong here at all. So I make a bet of $60. The button thinks about it for a second, and now the early position player goes all in out of turn while the button's thinking about what to do. So I'm not too sure what's going on here. Maybe it's just an honest mistake, though sometimes this will be an angle, and I'm not too sure what to make of it, to be honest. The button starts to think about it, and he doesn't even ask the dealer if the action behind him stands. So I decide to speak up and ask the dealer, hey, is that going to stand if the button calls my $60? And the dealer says that she's not sure. Okay, the button eventually folds, and now the early position player does put in his check raise all in. It was a total of around $250. Although it's definitely a strange play, I just don't see what he's doing this with that we're ahead of. Would he really check raise all in with a 7? Seems optimistic. That's the only thing we can beat here pretty much. So I don't know. I don't love it, but I let it go, and we move on to the next hand. Some weird hands here in LA, huh?
We started playing at 2.
In the next hand, the player on our right opens to $20 from early position. We call with pocket sevens and everyone else folds. So we go heads up to a flop, which comes 10-6-4 with 2 diamonds. He continues for $25, and this is a fairly good flop for pocket sevens, only 1 overcard. I'm not gonna let it go for just 1 bet. I make the call, and the turn brings a 3 of clubs. He continues for 25, and this doesn't change much, so if we're continuing on the flop, I think we should be continuing on this turn card. I put in the call, and the river comes a nice looking 5. So we back into a straight here, runner. He checks at this time, and I think he's just giving up on the hand, so I'm gonna have to make a small sizing here to get called. I make it $20 to go. He thinks about it for a bit and eventually makes the call. So we're good there, happy to scoop and move on to the next hand. Yeah, it was a small sizing on the river before you guys ask, but he also happened to be my ride home. So yeah. One orbit later, we get into a similar situation. The player on our right opens to $20. I make the call with 10-7 of spades. I don't mind a fold here, but this hand has good playability and it doesn't conflict with his opening range. So I think it's fine to call here. That's what I do. Everyone else folds and we go heads up to a flop yet again. This time the flop comes ace, 9, deuce, rainbow. He checks, I happily check back. The turn is one of the best cards in the deck. It's the 8 of spades. So we pick up a ton of outs here on the turn. With this turn card giving us so much equity, when he bets $25, I'm for sure not going anywhere. Happily make the call. The river is the deuce of spades. And good news is that early position continues. He makes it $40 to go and action's back on us. He only has around $220 left after his $40 bet. So it's a bit weird, the sizing here. I think I could put in a standard raise, make it like 100 or 110, just a small raise for value. Though, the more I think about it, the less I like that, because with all my bluffs in this spot, I'd be going for maximum fold equity, which would just be an all-in. So I think I should be doing that with my value hands as well, especially against a good thinking player. So after I think about it for a bit, I go all in and he snap folds. So doesn't look like we were getting any value regardless of sizing. Still happy to take it down. Next, we look down at 6-5 of diamonds from middle position. Standard open to $20. The player on our left calls from around a $150 stack, and everyone else makes the fold. So we're going heads up to a flop, which comes queen 10-9 with 2 diamonds. If I flop the nut flush draw, I wouldn't mind a check call line here, as we still have decent showdown value with our ace high. But with a 6 high flush draw, I for sure lean towards betting, so I continue for $30. And interestingly enough, he puts in the min raise to $60. I'm not too sure what's going on here with this min raise. I contemplate shoving all in, though I'm not too sure how much fold equity there is, given that he's put around half his stack in the pot already. So it just seems like the only logical play here is to call. That's what I decided to do. The turn is the 8 of diamonds, no sweat. We get there right away. I check it over to him, and unfortunately this time he checks it back. The river's a bad card. It's the ace of hearts, so a lot of his top pair combinations just aren't very strong now, and if we were to bet for value, we're just gonna get called a little bit less, but it doesn't change too much about how we should play the hand because he only has around $60 behind, or 70. I go all in, and he thinks about it for not too long and folds king queen face up. So interesting check back by him on the turn. I guess we pretty much got owned there. It is what it is. Moving on to the next hand. The next hand is fairly simple, but I wanted to share it with you guys regardless because it was still a decent sized pot. So there's 2 limps. The cutoff opens to $30, and we look down at ace king offsuit on the button. Obviously a 3-bet candidate. I make it $100 to go. And now the player on my left in the small blind shoves all in for less. I think he had 80 or 85 bucks. Everyone makes the fold, so we're heads up all in pre-flop. The flop comes with 3 hearts, and the turn is a heart. Another decent pot going our way, and we're just running good here at Hollywood Park. Shortly after we decided to rack up and head out, we had to pick someone up from LAX, so it was time to call it a day and get some more footage of the casino. I did get caught filming here, first time. That was an interesting experience. Anyway, we played for 2.5 hours and made $364. Anyway, that concludes the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you all for watching, leaving a comment, liking the video if you did. It really helps the channel grow, and I really appreciate all the support. Good luck out there, and I'll see you all next time. Peace. Okay, so before finishing off the video for Reels, I wanted to do a quick announcement about some upcoming events. For those of you who don't know, this is Johnny Vibes. He's another poker vlogger. I'm sure you've all heard of him if you're watching this channel. If somehow you haven't, go ahead and check out his channel. He makes awesome content. He's a great player to learn poker from. He's got his own clothing line. Definitely a channel you want to check out. Anyway, he's doing a sweepstakes / giveaway for his subscribers. He's been nominated for an award ceremony this Friday in Vegas for poker vloggers and poker personalities. He's decided to give back to the community by offering one of his subscribers to come with him and join him on this trip. And somehow, some way, we banked and got chosen. So next vlog, I should be with Johnny Vibes in Las Vegas, doing some award ceremonies, having fun, possibly playing some poker, and who knows what other shenanigans. So I hope you guys enjoy this vlog and look out for the next one because it should be a special one. Thanks again to Johnny Vibes. I think this is an awesome opportunity he's providing, and I'm just stoked. I can't wait to get out there and see what happens. So thanks again for your support. I'll see you guys next vlog. Peace.